I like to tell people that one of the ways of finding the right company is if you feel it here, 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 and then in your wallet. Feel it in your head, feel it in your heart, feel it in your gut, and then make sure that the numbers work. And maybe most importantly is the head, the heart, and the gut. Because if you're not happy getting up, and I don't care what size company you're looking at, you might be looking at a little barber shop, or you might be looking at a multi-million-dollar manufacturing concern. If you're not happy going in every morning, you're not going to make as much money. So be sure that whether you're a buyer or a seller, that the buyer feels like a good fit, the seller feels like a good fit. You know, one of the things that happens in our industry a lot is something called an earnout. And we're going to be talking about that in future episodes, but one thing that's very common is if there's any client concentration whatsoever, the buyer wants to protect against erosion of that client concentration, so they're going to ask the seller to hold some paper. And I'm sure everyone's heard the term hold paper. No one wants to do it, but guess what? It's a very common thing. And that paper is held many times by means of what's referred to in the industry as an earnout. And these earnouts are tied to a lot of different things, either growth or retention. So who's got it tougher? I mean, the seller is saying, well, I don't want to hold paper, because what happens if I transfer my ownership to you, give you the keys, and you walk in and you screw things up? There goes my earnout. And the buyer is saying, well, what if the seller has a special personal relationship with that particular client who represents 70% of the company? And I take over the company, and that guy calls up and says, you know, I like Joe, but I don't like you, Chris. See you later. So stop and think about it. Tough side, tough call. If I was on the sell side, I'd probably say seller's got the toughest job. If it's on the buy side, I'd say the buyer has the toughest call. We at George & Company do a lot of buy-side representation, and quite frankly, when I give it a lot of thought, I think I'd lean more towards the buyer, because there's an old phrase in our industry that goes back many, many, many years. But buyers are liars and sellers are tellers, and I find more telling going on than lying going on in our industry. More later.